On today's episode of Big Drive Energy, we're going to discuss Keegan Bradley's dominating win at the Travelers at TPC River Highlands. We're also going to talk about our round at TPC Colorado yesterday. Kicked our ass, but it was a great track. We're going to discuss all of that, including playing the 773-yard par 5. We're going to discuss the updated info along the PGA and LIV merger, kind of what it means, what the public investment firm is taking over essentially, and what it means for each player and each tour, as well as discussing should there be no more white stakes? Would that help the pace of play for your everyday golfer? All right. This podcast, of course, is always brought to you by our great friends over at Pins and Aces. I'm rocking the hoodie now. It's the most comfortable hoodie I've ever worn. We wear nothing but Pins and Aces out on the golf course. They've got the best ball markers. They've got the liquor stick. They've got the beer sleeve. We actually got shit on our TikTok for their ball marker being a weed leaf. Some old dude just chirping at us. It was hilarious. I was chirping back at him, having a good time with that. But they just dropped the whole South Park collection. Mitchell was wearing that on Monday at TPC Colorado. Great shirts, phenomenal head covers with Towley. Just all around great stuff. And they've got so many different collabs that you can check out. Something for everybody. The best golf brand in the world. It is Pins and Aces. Use that promo code BDE when you check out, and it'll save you 15% off your entire order, plus free shipping. All right, let's tee it up. Keegan Bradley, domination, TPC River Highlands. Question for you. Was the course too easy? Your thoughts?
Well, for those guys playing 6,800 yards, no matter what, you could pretty much probably take their driver out of their bag and they're still going to shoot 8-10 under par with just how short that course is. You can't really make it wet enough or hard enough. But I will say, and this is kind of a shot at LA Country Club, but I would have rather have watched them play TPC River Highlands twice because it's just such a good track. The players love it. Everybody loves it. And it's just a great layout. Like it is weekend or year in, year out, one of the favorite stops on tour. So I just thought it was very cool. They obviously talked about it on the broadcast, but Keegan Bradley is a Northeastern boy from New England, quote unquote. He's from Vermont and then went to college at St. John's University. And we've talked about him at multiple points on this podcast because he has had a very low key, like very good career. Because what do you win the 2013 PGA Championship? So kind of just a long career for him. I mean, I think at this point he's made $8.5 million this year and $40 million in his career. So I think.
Well, when we were talking about, the golf, we did the golfer tiers. I don't think he was mentioned by either of us, and rightfully so. I'll defend us at the time. He's had a lot of events this year where he's been like, "Oh, it's Keegan Bradley's playing well again," and then by Sunday he's out of it or not winning it. But here's a look at his. He has 6 PGA Tour wins, or professional wins centered around the PGA Tour, essentially. He's won the Byron Nelson in 2011 in a playoff. He won the PGA Championship in 2011 in a playoff. He won the WGC Bridgestone Invitational. He won the BMW Championship in 2018 in a playoff. He won the Zozo Championship in 2022, and then he won the Travelers, which is an elevated event. So his win profile for having 6 PGA Tour wins is pretty incredible.
Yeah, the Zozo is played in, excuse me, is it played in Thailand? Or it's definitely either like Thailand or Japan. It's an international.
Yeah, it's the greater Tokyo area of Japan.
Ooh, that'd be so cool to play golf.
It's co-sanctioned by the Japan Golf Tour and the PGA Tour.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was always a very cool event. I remember just the golf courses over there look unbelievable. But anywho, yeah, there was a period of time, and I think you and I discussed this personally, but he's always been that dude because he used to anchor back in the day with the belly putter. Remember that? What was it? It was like the saber tooth. Remember that Odyssey putter that was like the rounded teeth? It wasn't the straight one. Um, it was like the rounded. I think they call it the saber tooth. But he always anchored back in the day. He had a belly putter, and that was probably when he had the most success in his career up until again recently. But now he's got the same Odyssey Jailbird longer putter that's not anchored, but it's the same putter that Wyndham and Ricky Fowler used. So I think Keegan kind of gets forgot about in that conversation. But I was looking at his strokes gain stats this morning, and he's inside the top 55 in every strokes gained category on the PGA Tour. So that just means you're playing pretty damn good from tee to green. And I think 3 out of the 4, he was top 25. I think he was like 53rd in approach to the green. And also, what I didn't realize was going through this PGA Tour app is the amount of stats that they give you. Like, they give you so many freaking stats. Because I was, excuse me, I don't know what's going on. So Keegan, I saw that Keegan actually hits it closer, statistically speaking, from 125 yards to 150 than he does from 50 to 125, which is very rare. Like,
Wow. So he's the pitching wedge, gap wedge, maybe 9-iron is dialed.
and the
His
sand
wedge
wedge,
game.
lob wedge needs some work.
Yeah, well, hasn't he always been just like a really good striker of the ball, but kind of, a striker of the ball irons wise, and I guess driver, he hits a driver pretty well, but on the greens, he's kind of been a disaster is an unfair
Yeah,
comparison, but it hasn't been
instantly.
good.
Yeah, I would almost consider it like a diet Rory McIlroy, where you kind of know what you're getting tee to green. Like he's a very good ball striker, but when he has a good week putting, that usually equates to a really solid finish. Because, well, so this year he's 23rd in strokes gained putting, which is awesome. 53rd in approach to the green, 38th off the tee, and 22nd total strokes gained. So the dude is just very solid. Uh, he definitely does not have that superstar look. He's kind of that tall, lanky, skinny type of guy, but he is one of those dudes that just wills himself to play good golf. Like, he's got those intangibles that a lot of people, don't necessarily not agree with, but they don't think they exist. And Keegan Bradley definitely has that kind of not killer mentality, but he pushes himself pretty hard, uh, and he expects a lot from himself. And let's actually talk about his little mini collapse, because he had made. And I personally am just done tweeting about golfers playing well because I feel like I mushed them. Because I was rooting for Keegan, like I had no problem. I had Patrick Cantlay on my ticket, so I was kind of hoping he'd make a run, but uh, that goober fucking couldn't do anything. So I was just rooting for Keegs, but he had
Fucking
made,
Captain D-Walt Drills over
yeah,
there, fucking
what a
dicking
tool,
himself down on the back nine Sunday,
right?
making bogeys. One thing I will say real quick is one of the funnest parts about TPC River Highlands. Now, I'm on the other side of you. I would have rather it was a good course to watch, but I just the more we get tournaments where winners are 8 to 10 under, the more I hate tournaments like this past weekend where Keegan's 23 under got it to 26 at one point. And only because not that I hate seeing them make a ton of birdies. I love that. That's a blast. Like I remember so when Cam Smith won the Tournament of Champions a couple of years ago and shot like 32 under. And John Rahm shot 31. Like it's fun watching these players be really good and have a birdie fest out there. But the one part that I don't like about it, just from a viewer standpoint, is the fact that like at the end of day one, half the field's out of it. And at the end of day two, obviously half the field's out of it again because they're cut. But even the guys that made the cut, there's another, you know, there was like 10 guys on the weekend that had a legitimate chance, and they would have had to fire a stupid low number on Saturday to get themselves anywhere close to that. So that's the part that I just don't enjoy about tournaments that go so low. You know, like anywhere in the 12 to 15 range is good, but like that 9 to 12 range, if a guy goes out and fires 66 on Saturday or Sunday, he's all of a sudden in it versus, oh yeah, some of the guys would have needed like 63, 63 to even be in the top 5 on Saturday, Sunday at TPC River Highlands.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that side to it from a viewership standpoint. But I actually have heard the opposite theory from some of the players where, like, courses like TPC River Highlands, it allows you, if you're playing very, very good, to separate yourself from the field. So I think that some players kind of like that idea. If they, you know, if I play way better than you one day and I'm only 3 shots ahead of you, that kind of sucks. You know what I mean? And it's not saying that you played like you probably didn't play terrible if it's only 3 shots, but the gap in playing well versus not playing well is just widened on a course like that. So you have a dude that shoots 23, 24 under, whatever, through 4 days. He's playing really good golf. And in order for you to contend with that, you have to do the same thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, he won by 3 shots and he bogeyed 3 of the last 5 holes. So he played his ass off. I mean, he shot what, 62, 63, 64. And then did he finish with 68, I want to say?
Yeah,
Um,
he was 2 under, so it was a par
yeah, par
70.
70, so 68. But realistically, when you have a course that's quote unquote easy, it allows the players to separate themselves by playing really good golf. Because if a course is easy and you're not playing great, you can still fire a couple under, but you're not going to shoot 8, 9 under, you know? So I guess for me personally, it's more of my expectation going into the tournament. Like, we're going to watch the John Deere Classic here in the next week or two. And that place is notorious for super low scores. But I know that, so I expect that, and I think that's fun. And I think a good variety of that on tour, where not every course is super tough and not every course is super easy. You know, they play some tougher weeks, they play some easier weeks, and there is certain types of players that play very good on easy courses and not so great on like tougher courses. And then there's players that actually are more built for like tough golf, but don't really necessarily go super low on the easy courses. So I don't know. I mean, it's a good variety for me. And I really didn't mind it. I mean, there was Denny McCarthy. We could talk about that real quick. I honestly thought he was going to win after day one. But he lipped out his approach on 18 on Thursday for 59, which would have been the greatest 59 in the history of golf. Nobody's ever holed out before for, at least that I can remember, on the PGA Tour, because Jim Furyk shot 58 here like 7, 8 years ago, I want to say. People forget how fucking good that dude was. Just solid. But that's the kind of thing, is like TPC River Highlands is a place that Jim Furyk can play well at. And that dude was hitting it like 270, 280 in his heyday. So, I mean, there's definitely a factor of distance there. But overall, I really didn't have a problem with the course being easy. It's just like, well, if it's that easy, then make more birdies, you know, keep up with the leader. But Keegan had a little bit of a breakdown on the back 9. I mean, going into after the 13th hole, it was either the 12th or the 13th. He had made 5 birdies and no bogeys on the day. Like, he was absolutely cruising. And then he hits a tee shot in the water on a par 5. And that was kind of his first loose shot of the day. And all of a sudden he went from like really feeling like he was going to walk away with the thing, you know, not even a second thought, to bogeying 3 of the next 4 holes, I want to say, and 3 of the next 5. Because then he parred 17, parred 18. But he definitely had like some loose shots in there where he just, and it's crazy how your mindset changes. Like you're, and we've all been there, I think, if you play enough golf, where you feel pretty comfortable with the round. Like you're feeling good about your game. You're thinking birdies, not bogeys. You know what I mean? Like there's that mindset. And then, I mean, obviously, nobody listening here has ever played on the PGA Tour on a Sunday, but you go from this positive mindset and then you hit one really bad, not really bad tee shot. I mean, the water was only like 10 yards off the fairway. So it was just a mistake. But then all of a sudden, your mindset completely changes where you're playing like this defensive golf where you're not making aggressive swings and you're mishitting stuff. And it was just crazy to see Keegan make like that really sharp turn on the back nine. But luckily, he had such a big lead that he could afford to make a couple bogeys. It just probably wasn't quite as easy as he could have made it, which he did set himself up for the first 3 days. But if Cantlay would have birdied, Cantlay did not birdie the drivable, or he did birdie the drivable par 4, but then he had another really good look. I think on 17, he had like 6 feet, missed it, and then bogeyed 18. So really any sort of pressure that could have been put on Keegan was kind of alleviated down the stretch because no other guy really stepped up. So overall, great week for Keegan. That little slip up on the back nine, I'm sure he'll get better from, and kind of look back at what went wrong. But at the same time, it's really nice when you can win a tournament and still learn from it. You know what I mean? A lot of good times when you're learning from something, you're losing it. You're shooting 40 on the back nine on Sunday and fucking pissed off about it.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I'll flip my take on as far as TPC River Highlands goes, I think if the tournament was more intense towards the end, I think I wouldn't have this pretty, time dependent, like reactionary take. If like there was like 4 guys all trying to make birdies coming down the last few holes and close to each other, I think it would have been a little bit more intense, obviously, and that's what we root for. We root against a few players. We root for a lot of players, but we root for a good golf tournament. And I think that's what it kind of unfortunately didn't turn into because Keegan ran away with it. But Keegan's one of the few guys that I'm like, okay, I'm glad he ran away with it. And TPC River Highlands, even though it was quote unquote easy for these guys, I love the drivable 4 on one of the finishing holes. Like drivable 4s, and we'll get into it with our round at TPC Colorado because there was a few of those. They're electric.
Yeah.
Drivable 4s are with a penal. If you miss, it's super penal. Those are like some of the best holes in golf. And on the PGA Tour, they make for electricity every single time, and like Scotty Scheffler, as much as I don't want to talk about him, I was watching him climb the leaderboard on Sunday again. I think it's like 20 straight events. He's been in the top 12 or something, just absolutely absurd. Betting him top 10 is like a better than a 50-50 bet at this point, which is
Yeah.
nuts.
If it's plus odds, you feel pretty good about getting it.
Yeah, and he made eagle on the drivable 4. He hit it to like 10 feet and then made it. So I do love a drivable 4 coming down the stretch, and also a par 5 coming down the stretch as well to make it fun. But I think, shout out to Keegan. And I think the other cool part is we saw, he was on Instagram from the week of the major, the US Open, because he missed the cut, like playing mini golf with his kids on Saturday and Sunday, which was awesome. And then it like turned into, they were posting about him before he won, obviously, TPC River Highlands. And then he goes and plays putt-putt with his kids and hangs out and enjoys the weekend, and then turns around and goes 23 under, shoots a couple of 63s at TPC River Highlands and wins the Travelers, which is an elevated event. And one last shout out to Ricky Fowler for the little 60, his lowest round of his career. I know you said he's not going to win again, but I might have to disagree with that take as of this moment.
Yeah, I think he could win a lower level tour event. I don't think he's ever going to come as close to a major as he did at this US Open. It's one of those things in my mind for him where the longer he goes without doing it, the more unlikely I feel like he is to do it. And I'm sure he kind of feels that way too. It's not out of his hands, but a lot of things got to line up for you in order to win. And I think he can still win, probably an opposite field event or two, like the Puerto Rico. No, I'm just kidding. I think he's going to get it.
Damn, I was going to say, you're a hater.
No, I think he's going to get into all the majors now, so he won't be playing in those opposite field events. But I think he's capable of winning. I wouldn't be surprised to see him win at the Rocket Mortgage this weekend. He's not on my betting card, so that would be fitting. But verbal is binding, so I just said it, and that is my non-card pick for this week. But
Cutting room floor.
yeah, real quick, Scotty Scheffler. So he's made as much money on tour as Keegan Bradley has, and Keegan Bradley's been out here.
He was winning in 2011.
Yeah, he's been out on tour 11, 12 years longer than Scotty Scheffler, than Scoot Scheffler. So unbelievable shit. I mean, he has 40 career top tens in 87 events. So almost 50% of the time he tees it up in a PGA Tour event, he's finishing in the top 10, which is obscene. He does have 2 wins this year, 1 second place, 4 third places. So he's been in the top 3 coming down the stretch of a tournament 7 times in how many events? In 18 events this year. So that's pretty close to half, where he's literally in the top 3. The dude is just a machine from tee to green. Like, let me just check his putting stats real quick.
Well, dude, he's just a cockroach, dude. That's what he is. He just will not go away. And
Bro,
even if he doesn't win events, he shoots the lowest round on Sunday every week and finds himself in the top 5.
he is first in strokes gained total, first in strokes gained off the tee, first in strokes gained approach, and 130th in strokes gained putting.
That
That
is
is
obscene.
absolutely unbelievable. He's first on tour in greens and regulation, 74%. I will give a quick shout out to our boy Vince Indio, who we're going to have on pretty soon. He's hitting 78% of greens right now on the Korn Ferry Tour. And he's not having a great season, but that just goes to show you, like, dude can strike his ball. I don't know if the Korn Ferry Tour courses are quite as challenging as, week in, week out, but still, Scotty Scheffler is basically hitting 3 out of every 4 greens, which translate to about, what is that, 14 greens around, 13 and a half to 14 greens around. So, yeah, it's just absolute blasphemy that he's 130th in putting and he's still having this kind of season. That just goes to show you, like, Keegan Bradley's done that in the past, where he's had a really good tee to green stats and then been terrible on the greens, and he does not like have a good season when he's terrible on the greens. But this dude somehow is having an unbelievable season. He would be having a Tiger like 2000 type of year if he could be in the top, even 50 of putting. He doesn't need to be a great putter. He just needs to make the 7-8 footers. But you can literally set your clock to it every Sunday. This dude's going to be charging up the leaderboard. What did he make? He was 4 under and like 3 holes in the middle of the back 9. He went eagle, birdie, birdie. Like, he's just, like you said, he's a cockroach. He just does not die.
No, he will not go down. Speaking of Korn Ferry Tour courses being easier or tougher, let's get into our round from Monday. But first, want to tell you guys about our friends at the best burritos in the world, AZ People. If you are in the state of Arizona, whether you're visiting or you live there, hit up Burrito Express. They have amazing burritos. The breakfast burrito is my favorite because they put ham, they put sauce or ham and bacon in it, along with egg, along with potatoes. I get no cheese because I'm a no dairy guy. But Burrito Express has the best burritos in the world. That I would literally go to Arizona, and the only place I get breakfast burritos is Burrito Express. They're a super awesome local business that supports and promotes a lot of athletes from Arizona State. And it's awesome to see a local company like that grow. You want to follow them on Twitter at Burrito Exp. So BURRITOEXP on Twitter. They're a fun follow on Twitter and on TikTok. I think they were out playing Pebble Beach or something the other day. So really cool dudes. Got to meet them down at our Keeping It 100 tourney in Mesa. good group of dudes making the best burritos in the world. So make sure you check out all the multiple AZ locations. Tempe location, right by Arizona State, absolute fire burritos, best burritos in the world over at Burrito Express. Make sure to check them out if you're in the great state of Arizona. I also want to tell you guys about Manscaped. I did a little manscaping yesterday. It was quite the experience. My new lawnmower 4.0 replacement blade came in, and which is awesome. That's one of the coolest things about Manscaped is, you can put your stuff on auto order. So I forget to order new blades, and it's not fun when you don't have a brand new blade all the time, or at least a semi-sharp blade. But I get my ears trimmed up, I get my face trimmed up with my face lawnmower, and then I've got the bottom shelf lawnmower for all the rest of the areas that keep me trimmed up. It's hot. It's finally getting hot here where we live in Colorado. Yesterday it was a scorcher, if you will. So, and when you're out playing golf, my golf tan is wretched after these last 5 or 6 days of playing plenty of golf. My upper arms are extremely light, and the rest of my arms look tan. So when I'm wearing a polo, Pins and Aces polo, it looks good. But make sure to check out manscaped.com. And there's so many different options for, shaving your face, trimming your ears, trimming your nose with the weed whacker. I still need to start doing that more often because I'm getting these like terrible nose hairs. I got to trim my mustache a little bit. I'm going to let the beard grow for a bit, but as far as just keeping everything neat and tidy, Manscaped is the way to go. You want to use that promo code DNVR to save you 20% off. And then, like I said, if you get the every month I get, sometimes I switch it up and get a different package, but usually I get the ball deodorant and a little thing of that, which I carry with me in my golf bag, the crop mop, and then I get a replacement blade. So I'm always shaving with a fresh, clean blade. 4.0 is the best product I've ever used. Make sure to check out Manscaped. Use that promo code DNVR. It's Smooth Sack Summer. So make sure to keep that sack looking smooth on the golf course and in your life. And you do that with the Lawnmower 4.0 over at Manscaped. Waterproof trimmer. It's incredible. And you get 20% off with the code DNVR. All right, let's talk about our round at TPC Colorado. You want to start? How hard was the course, do you think?
It's definitely very challenging. I see. Well, the funny thing is the guys on the Korn Ferry Tour do go pretty darn low there. But I think the most challenging part is the greens. Like between you and I, we each probably had. I mean, so your round was very up and down. You hit some wonky tee shots, and by wonky I mean 80 yards right of your target. Uh,
Yep, driver failed me on. I had 12 really good holes and 6 not really good holes. I shouldn't say that. I didn't make any birdies, but like holes where I just looked like I belonged out there, and then 6 holes where I looked like I didn't belong. And real quick before we get too into it, I want to give a shout out to Colorado Golf Association for having us out there. They do these member play days. If you're in the state of Colorado, getting a CGA membership is the best thing you can do. ColoradoGolf.org. Use the code DNVR. You're getting $5 off your product. It gets you a membership, gets you a handicap so you can play in tournaments, and then allows you to play in these member play days at courses that you normally wouldn't get to play. So also the 2-man net series. You can play in some net championships with you and a buddy. They have great courses, and they have just a lot of opportunities to play some great golf in Colorado. So make sure to check that out. ColoradoGolf.org. Go on.
no, I mean it was awesome that they had us out, and it's just very cool what they do with private clubs to allow the general public to be able to sign up and play places like that you normally wouldn't get to. And you got a sick Pins and Aces towel. Like we didn't even know that they were doing that, but those towels are badass. Like I was pretty stoked. I got it on my bag right now. But yeah, overall, I would say the toughest part for me was on the greens because I actually struck the ball very well, tee to green. I would say I made one double bogey, which was number 8, that par 3, which was just a fucking joke. I landed it like on the right fringe. And for those of you who have never been out there or seen it, 8 is a par 3 that's not very long. It heads directly west, kind of into the the lake area on the back side of the on the west side of the property. But the green is about 15 paces wide, and it's water surrounding. There's really no bailout, so you got to hit a shot. Well, we were playing it with the tee back, or with the pin in the back. It was like 188 to the flag. So it was not. It's not a super long hole. I think it's like 170 middle, 180 middle, but I feel like 188 is just long enough to the point where you need to hit something that's not a short iron, and to be that precise to get it within like a 15-yard window from that long. Like I hit a good 6 iron because it was hair into the wind, and it fell just far enough right, landed on the fringe, kicked into the hazard, and then I did have a little freak out where I was just jamming my club in the ground. Like I think I almost hurt my left shoulder, like fucking just hacking my club into the ground like it was a spear or a shovel, basically. But other than that, that was really the only bad hole that I had, I would say. And I didn't even hit a bad shot. So for me, it was mostly on the greens. I three putted 3 times. Excuse me. I had three putted twice in the first 5 holes, and I was 1 over. So if that kind of gives you an idea as to the ball striking tee to green, it was pretty solid for the most part. But the other thing that's kind of like deceiving is the greens out there are so big that, sure, I can say I three putted, but like I was 50, 60 feet away. So, it was not like I was three putting from 15 feet by any means. I was hitting the greens. But that's the other thing, is I guess the approach shots are just so long that, your proximity to the hole is not a good shot. Sometimes is 40, 50 feet away. So then you just kind of have no choice but to either two putt it or make a bogey. Like, you're not like, oh, I got to hit it closer. It's like, well, when you have 230 in on a par 4, there's really no, you're not stuffing it. Like, I don't care what level you're at, but that's where distance really comes into play there. I kind of just worked my way back from the green all the way back to the tee box. But driving distance out there is key, because then you're giving yourself shorter approaches, which is then going to give you a better average proximity, and, so on. So for me, being a little bit of a shorter player, average player off the tee, it definitely has like some of its disadvantages out there.
Yeah, I couldn't make anything. Shout out to our boy Serbo, who we played with. He had a pretty good day overall, but in the match play realm of it, he had so many birdies. Talking about the drivable fours, he hit, like, I think he drove the green on almost every drivable par 4. I missed so many putts, like 3 to 4 feet past, which was, I could not get the speed of the greens down all day. I made 0 birdies, which is pretty terrible for 18 holes, considering like the first hole I had 12 to 15 feet. The second hole, par 3, long par 3, I had like 10 feet. I had quite a few opportunities to get up and down for birdie from just off the green, and I could not get the speed of the greens down to save my life. And then there was definitely, 5 to 6 holes where I hit driver off the map, and there's some serious rough, and they were growing it up. The Ascendant Korn Ferry Tour event is there July 10th through 16th, so not that far away, and they were definitely getting it ready for that. Because one of the things that I was the most impressed with, along with, I wasn't impressed with the length of the rough and the native areas off the right side of most fairways, which I ended up being in a few times. But I was really impressed with the around the greens. It's just so much different than a normal golf course. Like, some of the holes with the runoffs, I want to say number 13, the par 5, no, 15, the one that's right along the water.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a runoff area of about 30 to 40 yards straight downhill that, if you are looking at it and you play just regular public golf, you're not a member at a really nice country club, you would think that that's the green. That's how well maintained and tight it is around the greens. And so every hole that I made a par, I don't think I got up and down one time. Or I, like I literally don't think I got up and down if I missed the green for par once. Every par I made, I hit the green.
Yeah. Well,
And I three putted like twice, but it was just a disaster around the greens for me. And once I started missing greens, I had like two different trains of, the first 5 holes I all made par, and then I start getting on a bogey train, and then I get back to a par train starting the back 9, and then I get back to a bogey train and finish like double, triple. Like it just not good at all. Because I hit it in some wonky spots, and driver was just a real, up and down day for me. But yeah, around the greens, I was just so impressed with, and you have to clip it perfectly when you're chipping, and then finding the right area to land it on. It's just a different world that the courses that pros are used to playing versus just your average everyday public track.
Oh, for sure. You were so unfamiliar with it, you called it the curtain instead of the apron.
Yeah, I was fucking.
Since
I
he
I
goes, the
was
curtain is mowed so tight. I'm like, what are you talking about? The curtain? And I was like,
completely fucking what a disaster. I was completely sober too. That's the worst part about this entire thing. I
you're
called it the
talking.
curtain for like 6 holes.
I was like, yes, the curtain is very tightly mowed. Um, but yes, it is so tightly mowed around the greens that like, but see, that's where I was trying to help you a little bit, and you weren't really listening. Is when it's that closely mowed, like you have to get more resourceful, and you have to think about different clubs. Like you're just so prone to whipping out your highest lofted wedge, and trying to toss something up there, because we did play King's Deer Friday, and we can get into that. But just like almost not similar type feels, but there's some feeling of similarity between the two courses, in my opinion, with the elevation change, the undulation, the bunkering, things like that. But when you're on a course where around the greens it is just so tight, uh tightly mown is what I mean. You have to think about using the putter in some spots. You have to think about going with lower lofts, and you can't just try to toss everything up in the air. Like, what was that? The par five fourth you had, is that the fifth hole, sixth hole? Was that, I don't remember. That first par five or second par five. Good God. The first hole's a par five, but it was that second par five, like the fifth hole or fifth hole.
Sixth hole, yeah, because I made 5 pars going into that hole.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, you had a shot about, you were off the green about 10 yards left in the mode area. And I will give you not credit, but I will give you some slack, because you were going about 15 feet uphill, and you didn't think you were going to be able to get your putter that high up there, or hit it that hard to get it up there. But there was just no way you were going to land the ball on the green and still, keep it short of the hole. Like, I think you hit a really good pitch shot. You clipped it really nicely, and it still went 20 feet by. So there's just holes out there, and there's certain, greens and certain pin locations where you're not going to chip it close. Like that drivable par four, or near drivable. The next one, what was that? 7, 6?
7, I think.
No,
Par 5 is 6.
no, that was 5. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get this correct in my mind, because then 6 was the drivable or close to drivable par four. 7 was the next par four. 8 was the par three. Yes, so I'm correct, because then that par dogleg right par four was 9. So the sixth hole, I had like 20 yards to the flag off the tee. I hit it. I am getting longer. I'm working on rotating better, and really just swinging harder. I know that's swinging more efficiently, but also swinging harder, I guess, is what I've been trying to do. Um, but basically, I had like 20 yards in, and from where I was, I had a huge mound in front of me, um, and the green, the pin was relatively short sighted. Like I did not have a lot of green to work with, but I kind of just had to take my medicine, because I was like, if I try to get cute with this and get it close, it could come right back to me, and then what's the point? I'd rather have 15, 20 feet for birdie, and I burn the edge on that putt. Oh, I was pissed. Um, I did hit a few very good putts that didn't go in, and it was just one of those days. But then on the longest par 3 on the course, I hit 3-wood and then make a 30-footer for birdie. So I got down in 2 from 275 yards, I want to say. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is, I have a wedge in my hand and I make par, and then I hit 3-wood and make birdie. So it was just one of those kinds of days. Should we talk about the longest hole we've ever played? I mean, I've played it before, but that was your first time playing it. So give me an impression of what you thought of the 773 yarder.
Dude, it was a monster. I mean, if you check out our Instagram, it's going up today, but if you check out our Instagram and TikTok, we did play a hole with us, and I don't know if it's humanely possible for anyone to hit it in 2 from the plates.
Kyle Burke.
You think so? I
Yeah.
mean, I just don't like, I hit a pretty good drive, hit it out there probably 320, 325. And I stepped on my 5-wood and it barely made it to the bunkers that are like 200 yards away.
Yeah.
And neither of those shots were hit bad. Like, I'd fully admit, I have no problem admitting when I hit a bad golf shot. I hit plenty of them that day. But the overall just layout of the hole is awesome. It's an open teeing area, but I mean, having 465 in, basically a borderline short par 5 in after hitting a 320-yard drive was cool. It was a fun hole to play. I made par on it, so I'm super happy about that, because I made bogey on that 370-yard drivable 4 because I hit the ball in the bunker and then decided to hit one 10 yards over the green. But the aesthetic of the hole is great. It's kind of tough because I guess there's obviously way longer hitters out there than me. But even if you hit a good driver in 3-wood, you're still probably looking at, from a professional's perspective, at 150 yard shot in, 140 yard shot. If you're, and you have to place that second shot. I got to step on mine because I basically had, 465 in and about 270-ish to the bunker. So I could step on 5-wood and I hit it just in the rough short of the bunker. Thank God I didn't hit it in that bunker, else I would have been done. I would have been so aggravated. Like, oh, cool, I still have a 6-iron in from a bunker.
Yeah. And that bunker it's got about a 20-foot lip on it. Like, that's the equivalent of like Hell's Bunker over at St. Andrews. If you get in there from 200 plus, I feel like you're pretty well fucked. But that is the thing, is when we went to the Korn Ferry event, was that last summer or 2 summers ago?
2 summers ago.
Yeah, when we went up there 2 summers ago, on Sunday they were playing it from like 660, and that's still, don't get me wrong, very long hole. But these guys, like, I actually think it depends on for like my type of distance for how long I hit it. I hit it to the fucking family tees. Like, I did not hit a great drive. I think I hit like 270, kind of high and right a little bit, but I did not hit a good drive. And really, like, the cross bunkers for me from that back tee did not come into play. So I actually think it's a better hole for longer players, like from a little bit shorter, because then you actually have to hit a very precise layup, with like a hybrid or whatever. But for me, I had fucking 495 in. I beat on a 3-wood, or yeah, I think 500 yards maybe. I beat on 3-wood and I still had like 240 in. So, and I also think it was relatively soft. Like, once you firm that place out, it definitely plays a little bit shorter, but those cross bunkers really, I think, make it tough. And from that distance, really, no, like you said, dude, you hit 2 good shots and did not get to the bunkers. So, and you're not by any means a short player. So I think if those bunkers were in play, it would bring more strategy into it, as opposed to just rip driver, rip 3-wood, hit 6-iron, 5-iron, whatever in. But overall, yeah, it is a crazy hole, and it is one of those par 5s where like, you very rarely play a par 5 and you are happy walking out of there with 5. But that is the most par 5 type of par 5 I've ever played. Like, it is a great challenging par 5 where I honestly would like to see if they played the Korn Ferry from the back tee there every day. I bet. Oh, I bet it would be averaging over par.
Oh yeah, there's no way that just even professionals, like when you have that's like a par 4 being like 490 or 500 yards, where you're still looking at a good drive is a 180 plus, which, you know, this is 2 good shots, and you're still looking at around 170 to 200 yards for 90% of players. The real long guys will probably have, you know, wedge in. But overall, yeah, just a great golf hole. And really, you know, other than the bunkers that I hit it in, I think overall just a good design from a standpoint of there's some risk reward holes. There's a lot of like well-placed bunkers that are just right in that 290 to 300 yard area. I mean, I mentioned it on the very first hole we played. You know, I blew one left and I hit it so far left. I was on the 13th or 15th hole, which was fine. I just ended up laying up anyways, which I hate laying up on par 5s. But the landing area for 90% of players and professional players was right in between 2 bunkers that are 25 paces from each other, 30 maybe.
Yeah.
So just really well placed bunkers and a lot of opportunity. Yeah, the par 3s were really tough, and I think that gives, you know, if they play it back all the days, which they don't, that gives the course some teeth for sure. You know, like everybody was freaking out about the, you know, the 290 yard par 3 at the US Open. Well, take off 15 yards, and that was like 2 or 3 of the par 3s at TPC Colorado, just long irons that you got to hit really well. But overall, yeah, just a good layout and great bunker placement. And I'm still just enthralled with the curtain, if you will, the apron
Yeah.
of, you know, just it was just a great layout and super well maintained. The greens, I could probably play another 18 holes and maybe we'll get the speed semi dialed in. But overall, just a great track, and it was awesome for, you know, it's awesome that the CGA does member play days and lets people, you know, just sign up and play. And it was great track and great day. It was nice out. That's what it was. It was
Yeah.
finally an afternoon with no rain. It feels like
So,
haven't had one of those in forever.
I about the ninth hole, it hit me like a ton of bricks how hot and humid it was. Like I started dragging ass. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but real quick, I still think no matter what, like, and we actually had a dude on our Twitter say that we could come play his 8,400 yard track over at Rain Dance National. So maybe later this summer we can take him up on that because I feel like we got to get out there. I'm just gonna take all my short irons out of the bag and just basically carry around a hybrid, a 3-wood, and a driver, and maybe a few wedges for around the green. Because there's no chance I'm going to have any sort of short iron approach shot. But having said that, I still think some of the best holes out at TPC Colorado are the shorter holes. Like the third hole, the par 4, for instance, where you actually drove it over the green. That's a great risk reward hole. Like you have to hit a very good drive, but once you do, it's a very birdieable hole. But if you hit it left, you're in the water. If you hit it right, you're in a fairway bunker. And then 16, the par 3, is just an amazing hole. It plays, I think, as long as about 140, 145 from the very back tee, right in front of the clubhouse. And it is just such a good strategy hole because of like 140 yard shot. That's not the challenging part of it. The green, being in the proper area of the green and not getting overly aggressive, because I think that's another like mental thing with golf is when you're playing a long par 3, you immediately, you know, are kind of playing defensive in a good way, like for your own, you know, for your own game. Like maybe you make par, maybe you make bogey, but you get out of there and you're not overly aggressive. But then you step up to like a 140 yard hole and you're like, shit, I should be able to not necessarily always make 2, but this is a birdieable hole. Like this is a short hole. I could make birdie here. So then you get overly aggressive, and then that turns into like big numbers. So it's just it's kind of mental warfare in a way, because you go from 140 yard par 3 to 2 500 yard plus par 4s to finish up. So you flip a wedge in from a $140 or, you know, whatever. And then the next 2 holes, you've got long iron to woods into the green on your second shot. So overall, very good track. I love the short gettable holes. And not just because I'm a shorter player. Like, I think it's just fun. It brings in a variety of different scores, and it's not just a grind the entire time, where you're just like trying to make par on every single hole. There's definitely some like birdieable holes out there, but I had a blast. Really good track. I think once it gets a little bit older, it'll get a little bit more character to it. Because right now, for any of those of you who have ever played like a brand new course, and this course I wouldn't call brand new. What is it, like 6 years old, 5 years old? But it still has like a firmness to it, like where everything is just really like hard, and you can just feel it in the ground. And I think the greens will mature a little bit just as it gets older, and some areas around the green will, I think, soften up just a hair, because right now everything is just like hitting on granite. So I kind of think that's what they're going for, but at the same time, it'll kind of like the golf course will grow into the property a little bit more, and it'll just feel like a more natural setting, as opposed to them just throwing up this golf course in the middle of this farmland. But I got to mention the views. The views are unbelievable. Like, the entire western side of the course is just mountain views, and the lakes right there, like, unbelievable. The houses on that course towards the middle of the golf course are just unreal. So like I think overall it's just a very enjoyable experience to go out and play, even though it feels pretty grueling when you're done with it. It's a grind.
Yeah, it does take some strategy to play it, but it also takes a good amount of length off the tee box,
To
and
play
then
it well,
strategy as
sure.
well to play. Yeah, to play
Yeah,
it well for sure.
yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
let's get into a little LIV PGA Tour merger update. So this is from Perfect Putt, and it's basically, so this is a thing that I subscribe to. It's kind of fun little newsletters, but I won't get too deep into the weeds on all of this stuff. But it goes into all the different, what financial interests certain tours have into golf. So, for instance, this is the proposed framework agreement between Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and LIV Golf that would see the Public Investment Fund have direct and indirect influence across 20 professional tours and over $1 billion a year in prize money. So the PGA Tour has financial interest in partnership in 6 tours with a total of $415 million in season prize money. That's DP World Tour, the Korn Ferry Tour, PGA Tour Canada, PGA Tour Latino America, PGA Tour Champions, and then the TGL, Tomorrow Golf League that Tiger and them all own, and PGA Tour owns 18% of that. The DP World Tour has financial interest in 9 tours worldwide with $200 million in prize money. Challenge Tour, Legends Tour, Japan Golf Tour, Japan Challenge Tour, Alps Tour, the Pro Golf Tour, Nordic Golf League, Clutch Pro Tour, and the Tartan Pro Tour. So all these different tours with different prize money. And now the Public Investment Fund, as of now, before this merger, has financial interest in 4 tours, which is LIV, the Asian Tour, the Asian Development Tour, and the MENA Tour. And the MENA Tour is purses around $75,000 per event. But it's really crazy to see, like, in a graph. So this article has a graph of all the different prize money, and the PGA Tour actually has $415 million of prize money over the year, over a calendar year, and the LIV Tour has 405. But if you think about it, the LIV Tour's 13 events, and the PGA Tour is an entire season of events basically every week.
Yeah, that money is absolutely insane. And just to like have that financial boost in all markets is obviously going to be big. And I don't know, I mean, what do you think there's really going to be any fallout? It's forever evolving, because we're learning new things every week about what the setup is going to be for the future. But what do you think this kind of means for tours worldwide?
Well, and so it goes on to say, so there's another part of this merger article that's going to come out either this Monday or next Monday. And he has a sports attorney, John Nucci, in the mix to provide the legal analysis on it. But basically, the public investment fund is going to cover all of these tours. And it says that one could argue, quote, one could argue that little changes in the world of professional golf tours with the proposed framework agreement. And the PGA Tour currently has direct influence or indirect influence on 16 professional tours worldwide. And it won't be, the PGA Tour won't be affected by this framework, but it just like it gets into the official world golf ranking by tour and how many players are on it, from all the way from the Alps Tour. There's 3 players with official world golf ranking on the Alps Tour, and then 400 up to 404 on the PGA Tour. So I think overall, it's not going to affect much as far as each tours are ran. I just think that it's going to give more. It's obviously now that it's owned by all the same company, much like Succession, kind of going into this whole being bought by Gojo, etc. Like it's still going to be the same company. It's still going to be Waystar Royco. Like PGA Tour is still Waystar Royco ran, but the money is going to be coming from a different place. So hopefully it means more money for PGA Tour events even, and maybe we'll keep some people to stay. I think there's enough players on both tours now to make each of them interesting. You could definitely build up the lower level LIV Tour players since there are less in the field and there's no cuts and you're playing, shotguns in 3 days. But I do think that overall the player level on both tours is pretty equal as far as the top end goes. And we've seen that in the major championships this past year. But I think it's really concerning, and I'm really curious to get Vince India's take on it as far as figuring out what it looks like for Korn Ferry Tour players and all these other tours. Maybe, the Alps Tour and the littler tours get bigger payouts and then get more people into it. And it creates a bigger pool of talent, which just creates more competition, which overall for the viewer creates better golf.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen the level of golf in the last 10 years just skyrocket to where every field is so deep in professional golf. And there's guys out on, the Alps Tour or whatever that could probably go out and win on the DP World Tour next week, if they played well. So there's just so much depth in golf now, and adding more money is only going to push, push more kids to want to grow up and do that. Like it is kind of crazy to think about, but if you look at the highest paid athletes in the world, 2 of the top 5 are golfers. And I know that's tough to get to that point, but like a lot of kids grow up wanting to be a football player, wanting to be a baseball player, this and that. And that's all well and good. And I'm not saying you can't do it, but if kids actually are seeing like what professional golfers are making, that's just naturally going to push more people towards wanting to play golf, and more kids growing up wanting to play golf. And that is really like the biggest thing for golf, is getting kids into it early and getting them dedicated from a young age. But yeah, the overall depth of professional golf across the world is just going to keep getting better and better. And I'm just going to become more obsolete from the already obsolete game that I had. But I would actually think about coming out of retirement to like play on the Alps Tour. Just how sick does that sound? Like you just travel around like Switzerland and Austria all summer and play golf. That sounds like a vacation. That doesn't sound like a fucking work to me.
Let's start a GoFundMe for Mitchell's Alps Tour.
Hell yeah, I would be so. I would vlog the whole thing. I would be posting videos. I'd be like, "Oh, missed the cut. I'm fucking at a chalet eating brie cheese or what, probably some other kind of cheese they got over there. I'm not sure what kind it is, and like drinking some wine and just like that. I don't know how you take it seriously. Like, is there a single dude that like is like living out of their car, like mini tour grinding on the Alps Tour? Like they were like setting up a tent at like 10,000 feet on the side of a mountain to so they can play golf that week. Like that just doesn't sound like a very mini tour thing. Also, the Tartan Tour, I assume, is in the UK. And I think that would be a very fun tour to play on also. Like if you're playing Scotland, England, places like that, I would definitely be down to play there. That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be fun to just like play. I know you played some mini tour stuff, but to really get to see the whole world playing mini tour golf, if that was fun. So
Right? Like
we'll
you
start.
feel like you're an
We'll start to
international
go.
superstar and you're just
Yeah,
playing mini tour
you're just
golf.
some fucking shitty American golfer.
That's me.
living a great life. All right, before we get out of here, let's touch on this little debate about abolishing the white stake. Give me your take on this. I do think, from a standpoint of pace of play, which has been, it's always going to be a discussion in the golf world, especially on like junior tournaments and tournaments where kids are walking. I think there's nothing worse than A, looking for a ball, and B, going back to the tee when you obviously always should hit a provisional, but I think it's one of the most disastrous things in the sport.
Yeah, we may fall a little bit different here because I don't think you really can abolish out of bounds like a white stake. Um, because then you're going to have kids jumping into people's yards if there's houses on the golf course being like, "Oh, I can play from anywhere. I can hit it out of here." Like you got to have white stakes somewhere. And then also I know it I know it sounds dumb, but from my standpoint of like being a somewhat shorter player that generally keeps it on the hole that I'm playing, like I asked about on course out of bounds at TPC Colorado, and there actually is on course OB on the 13th, which is that really long par five, because they don't want people to be able to. It's a little bit of a dogleg left, but they don't want people to be able to take it down the fifth
Number
hole to the
4.
left of them and be able to kind of shorten the hole up, or fourth hole, fourth, fifth hole, same shit. But basically, I don't have a problem with OB because it's like when you're in high school and somebody was like, well, our principal sucks. Like, I really hate him. I'm like, I don't even know who the principal is. Like, I never see the principal. Like, if you're not a jackass, you don't get to meet the principal very often. That's the same with like OB stakes for me. Like, I don't generally, and this is not a brag, I just don't hit it. I just don't swing hard enough to fucking hit it that far offline, but I just don't even know where a lot of OB is. Like, the only reason I get to see a lot of the golf course that I get to see is because of you when I'm looking for your ball. Otherwise, it's relatively ho hum for me. It doesn't mean I'm going to shoot 4 under every time. It just means that I generally can see my ball from the tee box where I hit it, and then I can see it from there where it got. Like it's just one of those things. I really don't have a problem with OB because I don't experience it as much. But overall, for anybody, I think there has to be penalizing shots. Like if you take OB out, it just we've had this whole debate in professional golf about, oh, everybody's too long, everybody's this and that. Well, hazards are one of the things that guard against people just shit pumping at 400 yards and being able to go find it and hit it again. So if you really don't want to dial back the ball, but you want to make golf harder, you got to keep out of bounds and play, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think maybe where we could find a little chink in this argument is, I think it sounds like they're just saying like white stakes versus fences and actual out of bounds. Because there's some places like King's Deer, for instance, where we played last Friday. There's a lot of places where it's kind of I hit plenty of balls right that day, especially, but my ball is 2 feet out of bounds, quote unquote. It's not in anybody's backyard necessarily, and it's in the same playing surface as a golf ball that's 2 feet to the left. I think that's what they're talking about more versus like if you hit it in somebody's backyard and there's fences around the course, that should be out of bounds, go back, or you can now take the new drop under some local rules that some courses will put into play. But I think it's just frustrating for me being a longer hitter, but a more offline hitter where I see a ball that's, and you do the whole like looking thing. If you guys aren't on the YouTube, make sure to check us out, Big Drive Energy YouTube, for all our shorts and full podcast episodes. But the uh
Looking thing.
like the look, just like when you look at a ball and I'm standing in the same grass and I can see my ball that's out of bounds, but it's 2 feet to the right of quote unquote inbounds. I think that's the part that gets frustrating versus like, oh, I hit it in that backyard. Cool. That's definitely not in play.
Yeah, I think it just opens up more gray area for like, and it's been a long argument to abolish, or like not abolish it, but being able to get relief from a divot in the fairway. It just opens up so many things for discussion. Like, what is is that just a hole in the fairway? Is that just a low spot, or is that a divot? Like, then you're calling the group over, then you're questioning it. It's just a another debate, and like people would be like, oh, this isn't their backyard. No, it is their backyard. It's just like there's rules there for a reason. And I think opening up rules like this just make it even, it's gonna take even longer to golf, in my opinion. Like if you're playing golf correctly, you think your ball might be out of bounds, you hit another one, that's gonna be the quickest way regardless. Like then if there's not OB and you're searching for a ball for 3 minutes and that turns into 5 minutes because you're not really keeping track. Like, I don't know. There's just rules like that that I think are there for a reason. And I'm not by any means like a teacher's pet type of person. Like I want to follow all the rules strictly, but I just see it as like another thing that could be up for debate on the golf course, which I think is just opens a whole new can of worms.
Yeah, I think a lot of golf rules moving forward are just trying to make the game easier for a lot of the people that are just getting into it, which I'm not totally against at all. But overall, there are still rules of golf and you have to play by them. So I get both sides of the argument. I think it's an interesting argument, but I think abolishing out of bounds in general or just having a different way to play it is the most helpful way for moving golf forward and making it a little easier and making it a little quicker to play. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's the thing though, is you do one thing and it turns into the repercussions of changing a rule are never, it's always good intentions, but then it's like, holy shit, why do we open this can of worms? So I think you just got to consider all possibilities when you're, considering a rule change like that. Like what is the worst pot? How could somebody bend this new rule to the umpteenth degree and, go from there? Like, is it ultimately beneficial or is it not? And I mean, golf has had pretty much the same rules for hundreds of years for a reason, in my opinion. So I don't necessarily have a problem with it. But if I start swinging it harder and start hitting it a little more crooked, maybe I'll feel a little bit stronger about that whole rule.
yeah, we'll have to revisit this issue. Uh,
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
that's it for us this week. We appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure to check us out on YouTube at Big Drive Energy. We got all our shorts up there on the TikTok at Big Drive Energy as well. Instagram, Big Drive Energy Pod. I am at Big Drive Spence. He is at Big Drive Mitch. Hopefully that's enough big drives for you for the next week. We appreciate you all tuning in. Enjoy the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Real quick, I'll give you guys a quick rundown of our picks. Once again, this is always on IG and Twitter before the tournament goes out. We're currently up like 35 units on the year, so no big deal. Shouts to us.
Shout out to you. I've been fucking terrible.
Well, really, it's just 60 to 1 winner. Too bad we didn't hit a
Denny McCarthy.
100 to 1 winner. We
Oh,
would be in a real good spot. But my picks this week are Tony Finau, Chris Kirk, and Troy Merritt, plus 25,000 on Troy Merritt. Mitchell's picks are Ludwig Aberg, Brian Harmon, and Bo Hostler. So make sure you get those picks in. Tune into the Rocket Mortgage Classic. I just had to bet Tony Finau because if he wins it, I'm going to be so pissed in general that I didn't bet him. So
he likes to show up at weaker field events. So
oh man, Mitchell throwing shade at Tony Finau. That's it for us. Enjoy the week. Enjoy the Rocket Mortgage Classic. We'll talk to you guys next week, hopefully with a guest on. This also might be my last podcast being a non-dad. So a lot of exciting stuff for us coming up in the future. Make sure you're tuning in every week. Subscribe, like on the YouTube. Leave us a rating on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, and have a great weekend. Peace.
peace.